Hi, this is Tim. Thanks for watching this video. This is going to be a two-part video. In this first part, I'm going to be showing you how to set up networks and VLANs, and also the corresponding wireless networks as well for those VLANs. In the second episode, I'll be showing you how to configure the various firewall rules against these VLANs and the main network to stop them interacting with each other and seeing other devices outside of their VLANs. So let's get started. As you can see from the document on this screen, I'm going to be setting up 4 networks. We have the main LAN, which is in no VLAN or VLAN 0, whichever you want to call it. And it's going to have an IP range of 192.168.1.1 to 192.168.1.254. The host address for this network is 192.168.1.0 and it's a /24 network. The second network is going to be for the voice over IP telephones. They're going to be in their own VLAN because they don't need to interact with any other devices on the network or any of the IoT devices. You can put them in the same network as IoT devices, but I like to put the telephones in their own network, in their own VLAN as it were. So for the phone's VLAN, it's going to be VLAN ID 2 with an IP range of 192.168.2.1 to 192.168.1.254. The host address for this network is 192.168.2.0 and again it's a /24 network. So the third network we're going to be setting up is the IoT VLAN, and that's going to be VLAN ID 3 with the IP range of 192.168.3.1 to 192.168.3.254, and the host address for that network is 192.168.3.0, again /24 network. For the fourth network, it's going to be a guest VLAN, and it's going to be VLAN ID 4 with the IP range starting from 192.168.4.1 to 192.168.4.254, and the host address for this network is going to be 192.168.4.0 and it's a /24 network again. Moving on to the wireless networks, we're going to be setting up a wireless ID of 10-2, which is going to be the 2.4 gigahertz network. The next one is going to be 10-5, which is going to be a separate 5 gigahertz network. Then we have the 10-IoT wireless network, and then the fourth one is the 10-guest network. As you'll see, I'm not having any wireless network for the phones because all my voice over IP phones are connected through Ethernet cables. If you don't have through Ethernet cables, then you may need to set up an additional wireless network for those as well, or you can put them in either one of the other networks, maybe the IoT. So moving on, let's get started with going into the UDM-Pro configuration page. So let's open that up now, over to that page. As you can see, I've logged into my UDM-Pro with the UniFi OS. So to get into the settings to configure the wireless networks and VLANs, we need to go to the top right corner, click on the dotted square, select network. This will take you into your UniFi Network dashboard. So to configure the VLANs and networks, we need to go to the left hand side of the screen, and under the cog symbol, click on that which is for settings. Now that we are in the settings, and under Wi-Fi you will see I already have two wireless networks set up, one called 10-2 and the other called 10-5. These you will see are in the main LAN and they will remain there, and which you can find in a previous video explaining how to set up the wireless networks and configuring the whole UDM-Pro from scratch. So if you're not quite sure, please go and watch that video first. So to set up the networks, before setting up the Wi-Fi networks, we need to click on networks on the left hand side here. Here you will see I've got the main LAN, so now we need to add another network for the voice over IP telephones. So click here, create new network. Network name will be phones VLAN. The router, leave that as whatever default is in there. Untick auto scale network. The host address should be 192.168.2.1 and the net mask should be 24, which is 249 usable hosts. It should already be in there by default, so you shouldn't need to amend that. Under that you'll see the gateway IP will be 192.168.2.1, the broadcast address 192.168.2.255, 249 usable IPs as we've configured here. IP range is 192.168.2.6 to 192.168.2.254, and these are the DHCP automatic allocation ranges. Subnet mask, you can leave that as it is just for information, and it should be 255.255.255.0. So moving down, under advanced configuration you need to select the manual option. Make sure that the VLAN ID is 2 as per the document that we showed earlier. The network type as standard. Content filtering, you can select whichever option you like depending on how you choose to use your content filtering. IGMP snooping should be enabled, as is multicast DNS enabled as well, so both of those should be ticked. Moving down under the DHCP server should be selected as DHCP server under DHCP mode here. The DHCP range is correct, and then click add network. Then it will take you back to your list of networks. Here you'll see the main LAN and the phones VLAN. So now let's go on to creating the IoT VLAN network. So click create new network again. Under the network name we will call it IoT VLAN. Untick unscale network. The host IP address should be 192.168.3.1, netmask 24 again. Under advanced configuration, select manual. The VLAN ID should be 3. The network type should be selected as standard. Content filtering again, select whichever option you prefer on that. Make sure IGMP snooping is enabled, so tick that box, and multicast DNS should be also enabled with the tick in the box. Under DHCP you need to select the DHCP mode as DHCP server. DHCP range is 192.168.3.6 to 192.168.3.254 and click add network. Now it will take you back to the list of the 3 networks that you've just created. So the fourth one we are creating is going to be the guest VLAN. So again, click create new network. Under the network name, we need to call it guest VLAN. Router is leave it as default as selected. The gateway IP subnet, untick autoscale network. The host address should be 192.168.4.1. Net mask again is 24. Moving down to advanced configuration, select manual. Make sure the VLAN ID is selected is 4. The network type should be standard. Content filtering, select the option you prefer. Tick IGMP snooping again, so that's enabled, and multicast DNS again should be ticked and enabled. Then click Add Network. That's the 4 networks added. As you can see, the guest VLAN, the IoT VLAN, the main LAN, and the phones VLAN. So now that we've created those 4 networks, we'll now carry on and set up the wireless networks under those VLANs. So from the left hand side, select Wi-Fi here, and then we're going to create new Wi-Fi network with the option here. Under the name, we need to call it 10 IoT, or whichever network name you prefer. Enter the wireless network password that your clients or devices will use to access the wireless network. Okay, and the network you need to select is going to be IoT VLAN. Under advanced configuration, select manual. Now under the Wi-Fi band, depending on what type of IoT devices you have, whether they are capable of using the 2.4 gigahertz or the 5 gigahertz bands, you can either tick or untick either of those. My devices that I have are only using the 2.4 gigahertz band, so I'll untick the 5 gigahertz. The Wi-Fi type is standard. The bandwidth profile is default. Client device isolation, you can leave that as unticked. Proxy ARP unticked. BSS transition is ticked. And moving down, the only other 2 that should be ticked are 802-11. DTIM period should be selected as automatic and ticked. Minimum data rate control should be ticked to set as automatic. Under security protocol, select WPA2, scroll down, and then select Add Wi-Fi Network. This will then take you back to the list of Wi-Fi networks. Here you should see 10.2, 10.5, 10 IoT. 10 IoT is of course the one that we've just created under the VLAN. Obviously the network names and Wi-Fi network names might be different depending on what you choose to call your networks. So let's carry on. We'll go to create new Wi-Fi network again. And this time the network name is going to be called 10 guest. And this is just for guest access. Again, enter a password. And the network you need to select is guest VLAN. Under advanced configuration, select manual. Now, depending on what devices your clients are going to be using, either or both, you can tick or untick any of those. I'll just give my clients access using the 2.4 gigahertz band. The Wi-Fi type is standard. Scroll down again to security, and under security protocol make sure WPA selected, and then click Add Wi-Fi Network. You should then be taken back to the list of the wireless networks, and here you'll see I've got 10.2, 10.5, 10 guest and 10 IoT. So that's configured the 4 wireless networks. Now that we've finished creating the 4 networks and also corresponding wireless networks, I now need to make sure that the voice over IP phones I have are moved across from the main LAN to the voice over IP phones VLAN that we have created, and move them out of the main LAN. We need to find out which ports they are connected to so that we can alter the ports to which those are connected to. So in order to do this, you need to go to the left hand side and click on the third icon down, which is highlighted as UniFi devices. So click on that, and then select the switch to which your voice over IP phones are connected through the Ethernet cables to, and then from the pop-up window that appears at the right hand side of the screen, select ports and then select port management. Here you will see a dashboard, and it should tell you which ports your voice over IP telephones are connected to. Here you will see I've got Tele 01 and Tele 02, and they are on ports 22 and port 23. So click on the green port for one of the telephones and select the port profile, and then scroll down and select Phones VLAN and click Apply Changes. Then for the remaining voice over IP telephones, select the other corresponding ports. This time it's port 23. Scroll down to port profile and change this again to Phones VLAN and click Apply Changes. Then once you have finished changing all the ports for your voice over IP telephones, at the top right here, click Close Port Edit and then click the X symbol. It will then take you back to the list of UniFi devices on your network. Then once you have done that, you need to power cycle your voice over IP telephones. If they're using power over Ethernet, you can just unplug the Ethernet cable and reconnect it, or if you're not using power over Ethernet, disconnect the power from each telephone and let it reboot, and it will automatically assign it a new IP address under its own VLAN. So if we power cycle Tele 2 by disconnecting the power cable, then reconnect the power cable after a few seconds, wait for the device to boot, and it should automatically change the IP address allocated here. Now you'll see that I've power cycled both of my 2 voice over IP telephones, and their IP addresses have now changed and been allocated into the new phone's VLAN. So for any IoT devices that you may have, you need to select again UniFi devices from the left hand side, which is the donut icon. Select the switch where your devices are connected to, and then from the pop-up window at the right hand side, select ports and then select port management. Here it will bring you back to the list of network ports that have devices connected to them. Most of them are grayed out, as the remaining devices for IoT are all connected wirelessly. So all you need to do to connect your wireless devices and get them into the correct VLAN is to select each device access it and go in and change the new wireless network, enter the corresponding password, and it will then reallocate the device into its own VLAN and give it a new IP address. So when you've done that, you can now exit your UniFi Network page, and that completes the setup of your various new networks and wireless networks and the corresponding VLANs. So as I said before, in the next video I'll show you how to configure the corresponding firewall rules which will stop devices talking to other devices on different networks, although the main LAN will still have access to all of the other networks. Thanks for watching, and keep an eye out for the next video with the firewall rules.